Hey everyone, it's Andy Bernstein. Welcome to a very special episode of the Legends of Sport podcast presented by Fujifilm. This week we're celebrating the jersey retirement of the legendary Michael Cooper. Coop is the 13th Lakers player to be honored with his number retired and his jersey permanently hung at Crypto.com Arena. I was thrilled to be there to share in the moment with Coop and many of his Showtime teammates. Coop's number 21 jersey will hang next to other Lakers legends and Hall of Famers Kobe Bryant, Wilt Chamberlain, Pau Gasol, Elgin Baylor, Gail Goodrich, Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, Jerry West, Jamaal Wilkes, and George Mikan, as well as the legendary voice of the Lakers, Chick Hearn. On today's episode, we feature interviews with fellow Lakers Showtime members AC Green, Byron Scott, Jamaal Wilkes, Gary Vitti, and James Worthy, each with a great story and a memory of Coop. I really enjoyed doing these interviews, and I hope you will all enjoy going down memory lane to one of the greatest eras in basketball history with one of its most important contributors. Let's all celebrate number 21, the legendary Michael Cooper, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. All right, here with AC Green, my good friend, also teammate of inductee Michael Cooper into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. So you played with Coop 2 years with championships, right? I mean, you won 2 championships together in the back-to-back. Give me a little something about Coop. Like, we're all celebrating him, you especially, all your teammates are here. Give me a little something about Coop that maybe somebody doesn't know.
Wow, sweaty palms himself.
Really? But what was Coop like in practice? Because I didn't get to see too many of Pat Riley's practices.
Yeah, that's true. As many games you covered,
yeah,
and the action you cover always normally is during the game time. You're
right.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
But I would say this: what you saw in the game, you pretty much saw in practice, because he was and has always been that fierce, feisty competitor.
Yeah.
And it really birthed, developed, and the culture was always developed inside of practice sessions where you went head to head.
Yeah.
You did not want to lose. You always want to be first. And Magic and Coop especially, those two always played opposites. They could not stand trying to play together. And so it was just great moments seeing just how the Laker way was, especially for a guy who sort of came in as they were they were finding that particular groove and being that excellent team.
Yeah.
You know, I'm watching those guys and I'm like, oh my God, Coop especially because he's the OG.
Yeah.
So it's like, this dude is bona fide, 100% loony being crazy. I'm serious.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, essentially a sixth man getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. This doesn't happen very often, right?
No.
But he's a sixth man with 5 rings,
Yeah.
so that means a lot.
Yeah,
right?
it does.
Yeah.
It does. And one of those things that he was a contributing factor in every single one of those championships.
Yeah.
Because he played the way that he did in practice, it prepared you for a game, and everyone saw the level of excellence and the pursuit of excellence that we all try to have for our gameplay. But I'm telling you, man, without Coop, we absolutely don't get those.
Yeah,
we don't
Yeah.
because we didn't have that DNA.
Right.
Guys, we could have been competitive, but I mean, it was a no, I won't lose. Mentality. Yeah. And that, I'm serious, that was birthed in Michael Cooper, carried on to Magic Johnson, and then the Kareems, Norms, Jamals, Byrons, Superman, Kurt. You went on from there. MT, Michael Thompson, when he came in, you just learned the way. But of course, Pat Riley was the one making sure.
Right. I want to pivot a little bit now to
Sure.
Jerry West, because we're also everyone's honoring Jerry West.
Yeah.
First person to go in 3 times to the Hall of Fame and be recognized, and we all obviously miss Jerry dearly, but here to celebrate Jerry's incredible career. Talk about the first time that you met Jerry West. Do you remember when that happened?
Definitely. I was blown away when my agent at that particular time me coming out of Oregon State, said that the Lakers were interested in me. And I'm like,
which Lakers?
Yeah. And then, no, you're taking the words out of my mouth, because I'm like, I'm used to the Lakers my senior year on a Wheaties box that had championship that shot by a guy, I think, sitting right next to me, that picture.
That's funny.
And I'm like, I'm like, the Lakers? Really? And he says, yeah, they're interested, but they're not going to make it a very public, thing.
Yeah.
But they're interested, and they want you to come fly down. And I'm like,
wow.
Fly where?
Yeah.
You're like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And sure enough, and so I get on the plane, go to the airport, and I land at the airport in L.A., and who's waiting on me? Mr. West. And so now
he picked you up personally?
Yeah, so now I know it's real.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm like, this is, and so that whole time, basically, it was just really getting a chance to do an interview, but also at the same time, it was really getting a chance to know him, and he get the chance to know me. And I was, what can you say? I mean, he had to force words out of my mouth, but I've loved him since that very first day, honestly, because he took a real interest in me as a person. Yeah. And that was so cool. He wanted me to excel in basketball, yes, but he also wanted me to find a good home, be in the right kind of neighborhood. Right. So he made sure that happened. And he wanted me to meet his financial advisor. He made sure that happened. And I stayed with that guy, till the guy he didn't want any more of me, because I said, he's good enough for Mr. West, you're good enough for me.
Yeah,
so,
incredible.
Yeah, awesome dude. Awesome.
It's amazing, because you did sort of fly under the radar at Oregon State. Right. I mean, you had a great college career, obviously, but it wasn't at one of the powerhouse D1 schools. And the fact that they were scouting you weren't even aware that they were scouting you. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, Andy, I'm serious, man. I'm serious. And I mean, because we were Pac-10 at that time, so we played the LA schools, of course. Yeah. But at the same time, still, no, we weren't ranked in the top 20. I don't think, or barely, the bottom 20, kind of thing. But he was a person through his scouting confidants, and then him putting his eye out there. He discovered me. Yeah. And then took a chance and convinced, Dr. Buzz, Coach Riley, Coach Bill Burka, they all, the powers to be in making that decision, but said, let's take a flyer on this guy out of Oregon State.
Incredible. Look at the career that you had, and your Ironman career, of course, but the perfect piece to that puzzle, that back-to-back Laker dynasty. Incredible, man. Thank you, AC. I really appreciate you coming in, man.
For sure.
And one last thing, I just got to ask you, do you have any memories or anything you can share about Jack Nicholson sitting courtside? Because, Jack is being honored as a super fan this year. And I want to talk to as many people as I can, because I have my own memories. But what kind of memory do you have?
Jack has always been, to me, one of the guys I used to always like going up and talking to Jack before the game.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, when he did make his way in there, and he'll get in his seat, get comfortable, and he and Lou, they're just sort of sitting there before Lou walks in normally. But I would go over, and I just sort of, after I do my little pregame ritual, warm-ups and all that, and just go and just have that little short, small conversation with him, and just see how he's feeling about that game that night. And it's one of those things, man. He 100% lived Laker basketball.
Absolutely. And he was like a kid in a candy store. And he's freaking Jack Nicholson.
I know, that's what you think about.
He was always so accommodating and approachable. It's just amazing to me. It's a wonderful thing. But thank you for sharing that. That's a great story.
It's awesome. Thanks, awesome guy. Couldn't happen to a better guy. And that's an appropriate award and accolade for him. Super fan, honestly. Because he's the epitome of it. He really is. Because how many organizations can say they have that? That kind of person. Some people have been there a long time. But I mean, he's been ride or die hard.
Yeah,
you know, Laker guy.
I heard he used to adjust his filming schedules to fit the Laker schedule, or
I heard that
sometimes he would
too.
fly in just for a game and then fly back to the set wherever it was. It was like in his contract. It's crazy. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that, Ace.
No,
Appreciate
it's all
it.
good,
to see you.
brother. Thanks.
Thank
Good seeing you too, Andy.
Well, Byron Scott came to join us on Legends of Sport podcast. Always great to see you. You're a great friend of mine, but also the podcast. So thank you, B, for stopping by.
Oh, Andy, come on, man. Anytime for you. You know that.
Well, a lot of celebration going on for the
Yeah.
Lakers, especially this weekend, right? So let's start first and foremost with Coop.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Sixth man goes into the Hall of Fame. That doesn't happen very often, but the guy's got 5 rings, so he's unbelievably deserving to be here, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's long overdue.
Yes.
You know, I really do. I think Michael Cooper and what he's been able to do in the league, you know, back in his day, you know, like you said, 5-time champion, like 8 times on the all-defensive team. I mean, the guy is one of the best defensive players to ever play the game.
Yeah.
And when you're doing Hall of Fame people or players, it's supposed to be the best.
Yes.
You know, some of the best at what they do.
Yeah.
And Coop, without a shadow of a doubt, was one of the best at what he did. Larry Bird has said that for years, and he's the best defensive player that he's ever played against.
Yeah, well, that's
And
high praise.
that's a high praise coming from Larry Legend.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about your rookie year when you came to the Lakers, and Coop had been there a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
At that point, and Magic had been there a couple of years. And was there any hazing going on in those days with those old guys and you?
I don't know if
you were the young rookie.
Yeah, I was a young rookie, and they both were in their like 4th or 5th year in the league.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to call this hazing, but they were trying to beat the shit out of me every day. You know what I'm saying?
I'd
I
call
mean,
that
every
hazing.
day in practice, they were throwing elbows and hitting me and everything.
And what would Coach Riley do about that?
Nothing. He was
Hit him
just
harder.
like, you keep showing him what the NBA is all
That's
about.
hilarious.
And it took about a week or two.
Yeah.
Before I was like, look, man, y'all gonna have to stop this.
Yeah.
And they told me later that, look, we had to test you and make sure you were tough enough, and you passed, and now we accept you, and now let's go win some championships. And it was great.
Sure.
But yeah, at the beginning, Andy, it wasn't fun.
No.
It wasn't fun.
You had to earn your way.
You had to earn your way.
That's
exactly.
right. That's
exactly.
right. Coop is such an amazing person, right?
Yes, he is.
He speaks his mind. He speaks up, right? The guys always encourage that with him. You got any stories about Coop, like behind the scenes, something that you and I haven't talked about, but maybe something that the fans would really want to know about Coop? Something, I don't know, like you're on the road and something happened that, again, we know the great Celtic stories, of course.
Right.
But was there any other team, let's say, that you guys really got it up for, like the Celtics in those days?
There was no other team that we got it up
No.
for, but not like that. You know what I mean? I mean, there was, we never disrespected any team, so we got up for everybody.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, we wanted to make sure that we came out and we gave our best every single game. But the Celtics was a different level.
Yeah.
That we prepped for.
Yes.
But Coop, the one thing I'd say about Coop is, he was always one of the toughest guys that you'll ever meet on the basketball court. He wasn't the biggest, wasn't the strongest, but he had that wiry strength, and Coop didn't back down to anybody. I remember playing in Milwaukee, and him and Big Bob Lanier got into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, really got into
Wow.
it. And everybody had to separate them.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing about that trip, Andy, is that John Matusak was there, and he was in the front row, and we just heard this voice, "Coop, I got your back." And we all turned and looked, and it was John Matusak.
Wow.
And he's standing there in all black. He was a Raider.
Yeah.
And he was, a mountain of a man.
Oh, my God.
And we all was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
This dude was ready to come on the court to help Coop out, and that would have been – Bob would have been in big trouble.
That's crazy.
But we separated everybody, and after the game, I said, Coop, you my boy, but Bob Lanier?
Yeah.
Coop said I would have whooped his ass, B. So, I mean, that was just Coop, man. He didn't back down to nobody.
Oh,
that was just Michael Cooper.
Yeah, that's crazy. I got to ask you where that all comes from. So,
I don't know.
So, Byron, we're also celebrating the great Jerry West.
Yes,
And
yes.
I hate to say even the late, great Jerry West,
Yeah.
but of course we lost Jerry this summer.
Yep.
Talk about the first time that you were in Jerry's presence. You remember that?
Well, the first time I was in his presence was on the telephone.
Uh-huh.
And he called me that morning, and I was about to go work out, and my phone rang, and I was staying with my mom. You know, I just got drafted by the Clippers, and I'm still trying to work out a deal with them. And Jerry West calls me, and he said, "Young man, this is Jerry West with the Los Angeles Lakers." And I said, "Yeah, right." You know,
Really?
I did. I was like, "Yeah, right." You know, I was like, "Man, who is this, man?" He said, "Young man, this is Jerry West." And then I was like, "Oh, he's serious." You know, I said, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Mr. West. How you doing?" He said, "I'm good. We're trying to make a trade for you today." And he said, "We've been trying for a couple of weeks, and if this trade doesn't happen by 2:00 today, it's not going to happen at all." And it's like 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so, I tell my mom, who's the ultimate, optimist.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, he'll call." I said, "Well, I can't go work out. I got to stay at home. I got to, wait and see if he calls." 2:00 comes around, nothing. 2:30 comes around, nothing. So I tell my mom, "I'm still a Clipper. Let me go work out." And I'm about to go outside to go to my car, and my mom runs outside and says, "Telephone." I go back in the house, and I said, "Hello?" And it's like 2:45. And she said, "Young man, this is Jerry West. Congratulations. You are now a Los Angeles Laker."
Wow.
And happiest day of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my first contact with the logo.
That's amazing.
On the telephone, yeah.
Wow, you never told me that. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Wow, incredible. The other person we're celebrating this weekend is Jack Nicholson, going into the Superfan exhibit at the Hall of Fame. Well-deserved, obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
What did Jack mean to you as a Laker, as a player? You grew up in L.A., you watched the Lakers. Jack had been going to games probably since when you were a little kid.
Yeah.
But to be out there on the court and you got Jack sitting courtside, what did that mean to you?
Jack, I think, was synonymous with the Laker organization. And when Jack was at a game, you knew it was a big game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And we took pictures with Jack. We did a Sports Illustrated cover with Jack. As you remember, we were all holding him, me and Coop and Magic and Rambo. Yeah. And he was just part of our team.
Yeah.
When we had our parties, when we would celebrate winning championships, Jack would be there. So it was almost like when he wasn't there, we was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
So he was just a part of everything that we did. And I remember every time I would check into a game, Andy, he would say, "Shoot it, B." That's all he would say. I would be walking by him, he'd say, "B." And I'd turn around, he'd say, "Shoot it, B." Shoot it. And I was like, "All right, Jack, I got you."
That's awesome.
But he's definitely one of the best fans, best people. We all know what type of great actor he was. In his heyday, he was unbelievable.
A true super fan.
Just
lived and breathed purple and gold.
Yes, he did.
Right?
We'd go to Boston games in Boston.
Unbelievable.
And would moonshine the people and everything. He didn't care. He was just an unbelievable purple and gold fan, and we loved him.
Crazy. Remember the poster we did? Where at the concession stand?
Yes.
And Lon Rosen had the brilliant idea, we'll get Jack to be in the poster. And I'm like, yeah, of course.
Right.
But, Jack literally showed up. It was in the poster with you guys.
Like you said, he was a big fan.
Yeah.
Just like we were a big fan of his.
Oh, amazing. Well, thanks, Pete. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the weekend. I know you
Andy,
will. It already got cranked up last night.
Sure did.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gonna crank it up again tonight. Thank you, Andy.
Well, I'm here with the great Jamaal Wilkes. Silk, so great to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely.
So great, man. You're here for a couple of reasons, right? First of all, you're presenting Jerry West tonight, which is incredible, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Can we talk about Jerry's legacy and what he meant to you as a person and as a player, but also more as a human being?
Well, more as a person. I met him when I was in college at UCLA, and we would go eat in a certain coffee shop in Westwood and see him occasionally. And, he was very, very friendly then, and, would give us little advice along the way. And then when I came to the Lakers from the Warriors in 1977, he was my coach. He was the coach of the Lakers
I didn't
then.
even realize that.
And, it wasn't the best experience for him. I mean, he said that publicly.
Yeah.
He was going through some difficult personal issues at the time. But and it was so funny because, when you got in his doghouse, you could stay there a long time,
Right.
And but he was a perfectionist, on and off the court, and he really ingrained in me the idea of being a professional, what it means to be a professional, not just on the court, but the totality of it. Because at UCLA, they kind of shielded us from the media, so we didn't I didn't get a lot of experience with the media. And he would talk about watch who you associate with, so forth and so on. I mean, every other week he would call me in the office and
Yeah, it was important to him. He stayed on it.
Wow.
And then he pointed out some things on the court as well that were invaluable about, always centering the ball and, staying in balance. But he was, to me personally, that's how he impacted me the most.
That's so interesting. I think about you playing with Bill Walton at UCLA, and we lost Bill this year.
Yes.
And Jerry coached you. We lost Jerry this year. It's
Yes.
just like, the clock is ticking, but it's just wonderful to be all of us together, especially you and your teammates from the Showtime era, and celebrate Jerry and be here for Coop, and of course have memories of Bill. I mean, I don't remember being at a Hall of Fame weekend and not having Bill Walton front and center.
Oh, absolutely.
At every single activity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He really contributed
Yeah.
to the Hall of Fame weekend.
Character. Miss him dearly, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Coop for a second, all right? So you were teammates with Coop. You won 3 rings together, the beginning of the run, right, in
the
Showtime?
beginning of the run.
What did you think of this kid when you first came to the Lakers?
Well, I thought he was very talented. He was known as a defensive player when he came in the league, but he was determined. I mean, he worked on his game, and that's the thing that I love the most about him, because his commitment kind of raised all of our commitment to the game and winning and the Lakers. But I mean, he was a beast on the court.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just wouldn't back down. I remember in 1980s, the finals, he actually guarded Daryl Dawkins part of the time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy.
Really?
Yeah. And so he wouldn't back down, and that, I think, was a trademark for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's incredible. I did not know that. Yeah, and then, of course, Larry Bird called him his greatest defensive nemesis, right?
I mean, how can you top that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
unbelievable
compliment and acknowledgement, and he did it publicly too.
Yeah, that's incredible. Talk a little bit about Pat Riley, right? So Pat came in as coach, right? In I think after the first championship or second one?
Yeah, it was after the first championship. Yeah.
Right. And what was the reaction to the team at that time? Because like Jerry was sort of the co-coach for a little while, but then all of a sudden Pat's taken over with a whole different style.
Yeah. Well, Jerry didn't really want to be the coach.
No, he didn't. True.
And that was pretty obvious. But Pat had played in the league a long time. A lot of us already knew him, the veteran players, and he was in the broadcast booth with Chick Hearn. So he was not an unknown. Now what his coaching style was going to be and philosophy, that was unknown. But you knew with Jerry West and Bill Sharman, it was going to make sense. And but the thing I remember about Pat, he was just so smart. I mean, he just adapted so quickly. And very quickly, and he was very well organized.
Yeah.
And what the thing that he impressed the most of me was he was really big on the team having peer pressure to do the right thing. And I think the veteran players really liked that, because he didn't step in unless it was something really got out of hand or really bad. But he looked to us to kind of self-correct, and I think we thrived on that.
Yeah, and it held you guys accountable to each other, right? That was important.
It held us accountable to each other.
Yeah, which is really important. The last thing I want to ask you about, because there's a third person that's Laker-oriented that's being honored this weekend, is Jack Nicholson. He's going into the Superfan exhibit over at the Hall. What did Jack mean to you personally, but as a Laker superfan, just seeing him over there at the Forum in his seats, even going to games after you're retired, and he's still sitting there at Staples Center.
He meant the most to me when I was playing, though. Seeing him there, and I mean, not just there every now and then.
Yeah.
He was there all the time.
Every game.
And it was like, wow. I mean, it was like a command performance. You have people like him and Denzel and others that are at the Laker games all the time. And, you figure, well, these people are busy. They're busy people, and yet they make time to come to the games, and it means a lot to them. And it just meant so much to me.
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit like a sixth man, almost. Like he just gave the Lakers that aura about them, and of course, during the great rivalry with the Celtics, and he'd show up at Boston Garden and moon the fans. I mean, like the guy was unbelievable.
It was kind of like a sixth man.
Yeah,
it really was, and I think we rallied around that as a group.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, Silk, thanks for coming by, man.
Absolutely,
it's always
man.
great to see you. Such great memories, and you're part of such a great era, and it's wonderful for me who was part of at least most of that era to go down memory lane with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Vitti is here, Legends of Sport podcast. One of my great friends, somebody who was the gatekeeper for my career, somebody who held the keys to letting me do what I needed to do, and so great to see you, man.
It's great to see you, Andy. Thanks for having me. And I'm pretty sure I handed you the keys, but I left the door unlocked just in case you forgot them and lost them.
Thank you, G. No, it was great, and it's so great to see you and see all the fellas here. It's like a Showtime reunion. Want to talk specifically about Coop, of course, getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Want to also talk about Jerry West and maybe a little bit about Jack Nicholson. So give me one good story about Coop, maybe something you haven't told before, or maybe I haven't heard.
Well, there's a few things. So let's talk about him as a player first.
Yeah.
And Coop, I don't think he gets credit for this. He gets a lot of credit for being a defensive player, but I never ever hear anything about him being an Iron Man. And Coop was an Iron Man. I don't know the number of games. Obviously, we know about AC Green. But Coop played a lot of consecutive games.
Wow. And as the head athletic trainer, I should have said in the intro, you were there for every one of those games.
Yeah, I was there. Well,
almost
he was there before me.
Yeah.
Okay, so since '84,
yeah.
I don't know how many consecutive games he played, but it was a lot. Like I never had to worry about Coop. He was never in the training room. I can't take any credit for anything that he's done keeping him on the floor. He kept himself on the floor until he had a third-degree ankle sprain. I'm pretty sure it was in Houston. Okay? And it was bad. I mean, he blew his ankle out.
Yeah.
And because he had never really been injured, he was not used to sticking his foot in an ice bucket.
Okay.
But I had him stick his foot in an ice bucket, right?
Yeah.
And his eyes immediately rolled back in his head, and he passed out.
Oh, no way. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Coop.
And he missed some games.
Yeah.
It was a significant sprain, but he eventually came back and played. And then I think it was in, let's see, what year did we play 3 7-game series? Must have been 87.
Yeah, I think it was 87. Yeah.
And he hobbled through that whole series.
Crazy.
But never missed a minute that he played.
And probably never complained either, right?
Okay.
He wasn't a complainer.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But you could tell.
Yeah.
You could tell he was hurt,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, by his demeanor. But he just sucked it up and went out there. And I never hear anything about that. So thank you for the platform because Coop was tough.
Yeah,
he was a really tough guy.
It's wonderful that you're bringing that up because I don't really ever remember him not being on the court. It's an incredible legacy that he had on the court.
Tremendous athlete.
Yeah, about how athletic he was.
Right.
And the Koopa loops and playing defense against much bigger guys, heavier guys that are leaning on him. He took a lot of risks out there on the court. Amazing. So when you came in, Gary, 84, right? Coop was, a veteran. Well, not really a veteran, but he'd been with the team, 4, 5, 6 years by then.
Right.
And how accepting was he of you when you came?
He was really great.
Yeah.
Coop was always very gentlemanly, actually. Really just genuinely nice guy, family guy. I mean, him and Wanda, always had the team over the house and things like that.
Yeah.
I tell this story. You've probably already heard it, but I'll tell it again. We used to fly commercially when I came in. There were no charters, right? Yeah. So you'd have these big 7-foot guys roaming around the airport, you know.
Yeah.
And they get the newspaper and they start reading the sports page. And I'm not sure where it started, but this extremely childish, moronic game where if you had the paper out like this and kind of in front of your face because you couldn't see who was coming, somebody would come by and karate chop the paper out of your hand. It would stun you. Sometimes the paper would tear in half.
Yeah.
And it became to the point where people were folding up the newspaper and like you do on the subway in New York, you know what I mean?
And read it just like paragraph by paragraph.
But nobody ever did it to Kareem. Kareem was off limits. Okay? We're sitting in the locker room. I'm standing in the locker room, and Michael Cooper and Magic Johnson's lockers were next to each other, and they were directly across from Kareem. And I hear Magic say to Coop, "Bet you $100 you won't chop that paper." They called it the paper game.
Yeah.
Right? You won't chop that paper out of Kareem's hand. Coop looks like $100. Shit. He gets up, walks right across the room, whack.
What?
Yeah, to Kareem.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you see Kareem's head go up like this. He goes, "I heard that, Coop." Didn't blame Magic, who started it. Blamed Coop.
I love it. That's hilarious.
Now, if you know anything about Kareem,
yeah.
Okay, other than maybe the Ken Benson punch, okay, Kareem was really good at retaliating, but picking his moment. Okay, and I don't know how. I mean, it was weeks, maybe months went by, but he didn't forget. And I remember we were in Detroit. We were flying Northwest Airlines. And Magic sat in the window, and Coop sat in the aisle.
Yeah.
They were flying partners. And Coop would put a blanket over his head. And then maybe an hour or two into the flight, Kareem gets up, and everybody's watching him.
Yeah.
And he gently pulls the blanket back, and he pulls out a bottle of Nair.
What?
Right? Nair.
Yeah.
And takes a dab and puts it right on. Coop had a full head of hair,
my
right?
God, yeah, I remember.
Put it right here on his head, put the blanket back. And I don't know, it takes a few minutes or whatever. I've never used Nair, but I guess it burns.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Coop wakes up, his head's on fire, okay? And he's got like a 25-cent hole in his hairline right here. And after Kareem did it, though, crazy thing is he put the blanket back and looked back at everybody and went,
like, yeah,
right?
That'll teach you. That's hilarious.
Story number 2 about Coop.
Oh, Gary, that's a classic.
The third one
Yeah.
is, it's a little bit hard to explain, but those hallways that go from back where the locker rooms are onto the court, they call it the vomitory, right?
Yeah.
Where the way they were at the Forum, there were these like orange canvas tops that went over them.
Yep.
But behind that tarp was plywood.
Yeah.
Right? Like a plywood box.
Sure.
Okay. And the curtains were closed.
Yeah.
And Coop miscalculated running through the curtain
Oy.
and ran head first right into a sheet of plywood.
Oy.
Okay. And you could see, like, the plywood went down, and then there was like where his head, and he's bleeding profusely, and I had to get forceps and pick out little pieces of wood out of his head. I'm gonna check him out tonight. If you look closely enough, I bet he still has a scar. I had to get him sutured up and everything. But
only you could tell stories like that. That's just hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it didn't faze him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This is like,
maybe,
gee, is it going to hurt my good looks? You know, he thought it was, he was a tough guy.
Badge of honor, yeah. Well, it's so great to see him honored tonight, and all you guys showing up to support him. Also want to talk about Jerry West. Jerry, of course, we lost him during the summer, but the only person to be honored 3 times as an enshrinee in the Hall of Fame. His son Johnny is going to present him. What did Jerry mean to you as a longtime Laker employee?
Jerry meant everything. Okay, him and Pat.
Yeah.
I grew up, in an Italian household. My dad he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I left home at 18 years old, went to college, and never went back. You know, which means my first 18 years of my life, you know, the man was my dad. But then I spent 32 years with the Lakers. So I had 32 years of Jerry West, plus, you know, so it's actually 40 years I've known the man.
Wow.
You know?
Amazing.
And I've told people it was more important to me to get Jerry's approval than to win rings.
Yeah. Really, Gary? Wow. That says a lot.
Because I had so much respect for the man. And, you know, I wrote that book in 2019. And I likened him to Diogenes, you know, the Greek guy that's walking around during the daylight with a lantern. And everybody thinks he's crazy, you know? And they're asking him, why do you have a lantern during the day? And he says, because I'm looking for one honest man, okay? If he found Jerry, okay, he wouldn't have needed the lantern. You know? That's how much respect I have.
Amazing guy. He was intimidating as hell when I first met him, I got to say, but he quickly quelled that. You know, as a young photographer, I had to go in and do his portrait. And I came up to the office, and Mary Lou took a look at me, and she's like, well, I said to this teenager to go shoot Jerry. She said, okay. And Jerry couldn't have been nicer. It was just amazing. Wonderful.
I don't think he tried to be intimidating.
No,
it's just Jerry West.
It was Jerry West.
Yeah, he's iconic. He's the logo. No, if you don't know him, you know. I don't know if you know this, but when I came down for my interview, you ready for this one? Jerry West picked me up at the airport.
I didn't. I think you might have told me that once. I forgot.
He was curbside, as only Jerry West could be. They shoo everybody else away. He was outside the car talking to the sheriffs. Okay. And he was in a navy blue Mercedes with tan interior. I had never been in a Mercedes before in my life. Let alone being driven by Jerry West.
That's crazy.
And he took me to the Forum, and USA basketball was playing Spain for the gold medal in the '84 Olympics that day.
Jeez, Gary, that's incredible.
Carpet ride. It's like a magic
incredible.
Carpet ride.
Last thing, that it's got to be about Jack Nicholson, because Jack's being honored as super fan this weekend, obviously deservedly so. I don't think there's any fan out there who bled purple and gold more than Jack has over the years. Any little tidbit about Jack?
There's a few stories. Most I can't tell, but there's one that I think is okay. I can pretty much tell you this. So we're approaching halftime, and one of the security guards comes over and says, Jack would like to see you at halftime. Do you think you could get a couple of minutes for him? I said, yeah. I said, well, here's how to do this, okay? I'm going to go in with the team, make sure everybody's okay. Put him in the suture room. So I think you've been back there, right?
Sure.
So for your audience, the Lakers and the Kings, the hockey team, LA Kings, had rooms that were side by side. And between the locker rooms was a common area, bathroom, shower, you know, sauna, whirlpools, weight room, that kind of thing. Okay, so we shared that area, common area. And there was a room back there with a dental chair, just like the one you see in the dentist's office. And, you know, all the sutures were back there and dental stuff. And it was more for the Kings because, you know, they had all that maxillofacial injury stuff. You know, we had some, but. So I said, put him in there. So first chance I get, I opened the door. And, you know, Jack had been in there for a while. And he found the controls for the dental chair, okay? Because it could go back and forward, it could turn, you know, spin. And so what he did was he turned the chair, okay, so that the back of the chair was facing the door. So when you opened the door, all you saw was the back of the chair, which is what I saw, except the other thing I saw was this plume of smoke coming up from the back of the chair.
Why does that not surprise me?
Okay? This is a healthcare area. I mean, it's not a sterile area, but it's a semi-sterile area, and he's in there smoking, right? So the door opens. He hears the door open, and all of a sudden you hear, which is the motor of the chair. So now he's turning the chair back to face me,
like Dr. Evil.
Okay. And when he gets to me, he's holding a cigarette that's lit, and he has something in his left hand. And he looks at me and he goes, "Don't worry, Vitti. I brought my own ashtray." And he has this little thing, and it had like a little lid on it with a hinge, and he opened it up, and he put the cigarette in there and closed it so the smoke went away.
Yeah.
He put it in his pocket, and then he looked at me and went, like that shining smile. Okay. What do you think? You got to laugh, right?
Oh, my God, that's hilarious.
And then we talked about whatever it is he wanted to talk about.
He had an issue that he needed you to deal with? Oh, my God.
Something with golf, okay, his thumb or something.
Gary, you and I, obviously, we have talked for hours. We could talk for more hours, but I got to thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me, man.
Such a great friend. And to be part of this weekend is just a gift. It's
I'm
wonderful.
honored just to be here.
Yeah,
okay?
me too. Yeah. Thanks for coming,
And,
man.
Yeah, I thank the Lakers for including me.
Yeah, me too.
And the West family, and the Cooper family.
Yeah. Great celebration. Well, the great James Worthy, Big Game James, stopping by Legends of Sport podcast, celebrating a great Hall of Fame weekend with all kinds of Lakers stuff going on here, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is a major weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, our fellow teammate, the guy that we love, the heartbeat of the Lakers, Michael Cooper, finally getting inducted into the Hall of Fame for his career. 5 championships, Defensive Player of the Year. You rarely see a player going for his defense, but anytime Larry Bird has a quote that says Michael Cooper was the toughest defender, that's Hall of Fame material right there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we're happy for Cooper.
You guys won 3 championships together, right? You had come into the Lakers. Coop had already been there, won a couple of rings already. What was that rookie season like for you in terms of fitting into the crew?
Well, it was just an amazing, challenge for me. Being the number 1 pick, which usually goes to the worst team. I went to the best team who had won 2 out of 3 championships, and they were full of Hall of Famers, Kareem, Magic, Bob McAdoo, Cooper now we know. So it was a little bit, intimidating going to a team that really didn't need me and being the number 1 pick. So, Kareem and, Magic, all those guys, Kurt. And I remember Michael Cooper one day after practice at Loyola Marymount. It was maybe my second day. I didn't really know anybody that well. I knew Mitch Kupchak and Bob McAdoo because they're fellow North Carolinians that played for Dean Smith. And I just remember Cooper in this T-top black Trans Am. I'll never forget it. It was the baddest ass car I've ever seen in my life. And he's just sitting in there. It was black. He was black. And he was just streaking like he played. And I was like, man, that's a bad dude right there. And as I got into practice, I'm like, he's a little light in the ass.
Yeah.
He has no business guarding me.
Right.
But every now and then he would get switched out on me, and I would like, okay, I got him. But then all of a sudden I would just feel these elbows in the back, like lifting me off the ground, and he would just be talking trash, like, not today, young fella. He was just that tough.
Yeah.
And those are my first memories of Michael. And then as my career progressed, man, he was like I said, he was the pulse of our team.
Unbelievable. And just a great person, a great teammate.
Yeah.
A lot's been said about Coop's work ethic, right? And he wouldn't back down to anybody, right?
Nobody.
Did you ever hear he and Bird going at it like trash talk? Did they ever trash talk each other?
Bird would talk a lot of trash, but not to Cooper.
Yeah, okay.
He wouldn't talk to Cooper. Now, he would get physical with Cooper.
Yeah.
But, they had a respect for one another.
Yeah.
As an offensive player, Bird was a genius. Yeah. But Michael was also a genius on the defensive end. Yeah. And so when you don't allow people to get what they want when they want it, Michael Cooper probably made Larry Bird work more than anybody to get to his shot. And Larry Bird was exhausted, but they didn't talk a lot. I think the respect they had for one another was they just played.
Legendary matchup.
Just played,
Incredible. I want to also talk about the great late Jerry West. I hate to put late in front of Jerry's name, but unfortunately we lost Jerry. The whole basketball in the world community lost Jerry. Do you remember the first time that you met Jerry, either on the phone? Maybe it was on the phone on draft night.
The first time I met Jerry, it was not on the phone.
Yeah.
It was after I had been drafted. They wanted me to come out and do a physical before they actually drafted me. So It was 1982.
Yeah.
I fly out to L.A. The airport is under construction, as it is now, because of the '84 Olympics.
Okay.
And Jerry West pulls up in a 944 Porsche. I've never seen a Porsche in my life. And I'm like, this is the GM? In a Porsche?
I love it.
And I met him. He drove me around the city. We went to a little place called Angie's in Brentwood. Pat Riley and Bill Burker met there. We had lunch.
Yeah.
And that was the reason my career is what it is and what it has been. It's because of Jerry West drafting me and keeping me a Laker.
That's
most
amazing.
Of my career.
You know, A.C. Green talks about the fact that he went to Oregon State. He was a little bit under the radar. You know, you went to North Carolina, of course, you know, top D1 school. The fact that you were drafted by the Lakers, I mean, that how did that sink in originally with you?
It was weird because usually the number one draft pick at that time would go to the worst team.
Yeah. How did it all happen? That you
well, it happened because of a trade that the Lakers made in 1976, I believe, with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They traded Don Ford, another player, Kench, some money, and I think they also received Cleveland's number one draft pick. Well, at the time, Cleveland was at the top of the league.
Sure.
In fact, I think they had played in the championship. So getting their number one draft pick in '82 wasn't a big thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the owner sold the team. The new owner took the team right to the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
In 2 or 3 years, they went straight to the bottom. So in '82, the Lakers had their number one draft pick. But at the time, there was no lottery. So it was actually the team that had the worst record, which was the Clippers.
Yeah.
And the team that actually had the number one draft pick, they flipped the coin.
Wait a minute, I actually never knew that.
Yeah, they flipped the coin. The same way they got Magic.
Okay.
And Bill Sharman always chose, I think he always chose heads. I can't remember, but he always chose the same thing. But this time he chose something different and still got me. Yeah. I don't think the Clippers wanted me anyway. I think I still would have been a Laker because the Clippers would have taken Dominique Wilkins, who was a human highlight film, and then Terry Cummins was pretty good.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, a lot of Tar Heels being celebrated this weekend, by the way. Walter Davis, late Walter Davis going in, Vince Carter going in. I mean, how does that warm up your heart there with the Tar Heel community?
You know, these are Dean's boys.
Yeah.
Especially Walter Davis. Walter Davis was on the 1976 Olympic team. I used to go to basketball camp, and I would see Walter Davis in summer school. So he was always a mentor of mine.
Yeah. Was he a roommate of yours?
No, he was a little older than me. He and Phil Ford were close.
Yeah.
But in the summertime, they'd always the pros would come back and they'd rent a big house, and we'd find our way around there at some point. And then Vince, of course, he was next to Dominique, the next human highlight film. It's nice to see him go as well.
So great. And the last thing I want to ask you, J-Dub, is about Jack Nicholson. Yeah. So Jack is being honored as a super fan, Lakers super fan. Right. Just a memory of Jack being out there on the court warming up and maybe seeing Jack over there with that big grin on his face with the shades on.
Yeah. I mean, what a honor, man, to come to L.A. and get to meet Jack. I got to play golf with Jack.
No way.
A couple of times over at Bel Air at his club. And you'd see Jack, and he'd always, you see him at the Forum or at Staples Center or Crypto, and, he'd always see you, and he'd put his glasses down. Hey, James. I know you're going to get that ass tonight. I just, he was just so real.
Yeah.
You knew him as a great actor, but he was ours.
Yeah.
Jack belonged to us, man. He's so happy that he's getting this award in the Hall of Fame.
How about when you show up in Boston, man? The guts it took to show up in Boston Garden in those days. Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You were there with us.
True super fan.
It was an amazing place. I can't demonstrate what Jack did there one time, but they give him better seats because the seats they gave him fit right into his little stunt that he did.
Well, it's a great celebration this weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you,
J-Dub,
for stopping by. Always love seeing you, man.
2 Hall of Famers here.
Thank you. Well, big thanks to all the guys for so many great stories and memories of Michael Cooper, the latest Laker legend to have his number permanently retired and his jersey hung from the rafters. I couldn't be happier for Coop and his family. It was a blast to share that special evening with them and with his fellow Showtime greats. Thanks for tuning into this episode and for continuing to support the Legends of Sport podcast presented by Fujifilm. Please follow them on Instagram at FujifilmX_US. That's FujifilmX_US. Please, folks, tell all your friends to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Legends of Sport, and of course our Instagram at Legends of Sport. And my photography can be found on Instagram at ADB Photo Inc. Big thanks as always to our producer Carlin Barker and our editors Addison Shao and Sean Gosser. All of us here at Legends of Sport extend our thoughts for everyone affected by the horrific fires in the Los Angeles area. We want to thank all the first responders and firefighters who bravely saved our city from even more catastrophic loss. Please find resources on how you can help and donate on our Instagram page. Thanks again, everyone, for checking out this episode. We'll be back next week with another great episode on the Legends of Sport podcast presented by Fujifilm.